Be honest, you're jealous of this little robot's ride. From Transformers Armada, this is Sideways and his rider. Now, I want to say this right now. Sideways is one of my favorite designs in all of Transformers. Like, if I wanted to make my top 10 list of character designs within the series, Armada Sideways is way up on that list. I think he is a spectacular looking robot. Alongside that, the toy I've never actually properly engaged with. I know that Armada is often compromised, but I'm curious just how much of that great anime design managed to make it here. And even if maybe this figure isn't exactly what I want it to be in my mind's eye, I'm having such a good time looking at a lot of these Armada toys that I just want to see how they even tried to go about with Sideways. He is such a weird and, dare I say, even sinewy type of look, while having a very boxy motorcycle, at least in the anime. The look of the motorcycle here is just spectacular. It's very wide, do not get me wrong, but it has such great angles to it. It looks very sleek. There's a lot of great thoughts here, like you have these missiles that are also forming the tailpipes. You can see his hands down here, though. And, of course, you can take off the rider. Now, this rider is really cool. He's not only his own robot, in some ways, he's kind of a 2-in-1, or perhaps even a 3-in-1. I'm going to keep calling this guy Ryder, and I do think he showed up in Armada at some point. That said, I cannot tell you when or where or how. That said, you look at him, he is a very weirdly designed bot. His proportions are very strange, with a massive barrel chest and some pretty thin limbs. He has a ball joint in his shoulder. He has, weirdly enough, a hinge and then a ball joint in his elbow, and then corresponding articulation down here. Hinge and ball joint for the knee, and then a ball joint for the hip. He can get some decent range in him, do not get me wrong, but he looks so strange. And even the head design is very nondescript. There's not a lot you can glean from this guy, and that's because he's not really just one guy. Looky here, you see how we have these hands here? This is meant to split right here, and what we are going to have is essentially two different heads for Sideways. They just combine together to give him a rider in his vehicle mode, and that is really cool. Keep in mind, these are Sideways minicons. There's the minicon port there, and there's another minicon port here. And this is just how Sideways got to use his partners. It's unique from the rest of the line and gives him so much personality. Speaking of personality, just again, look at this motorcycle. I feel like I can't really put to words what I like about it, but the great yellow-purple contrast with the little bit of black throughout, and just the angles of the thing. You can see they even did things like sculpted in where you would have the speedometer, you have oil gauges here in the front. There's a lot of great attention to detail in this motorcycle, and because it's so thick, it can actually stand on its two wheels. How many motorcycle toys can you think of that can actually stand by themselves? I have heard many a time that Sideways is a pretty simple toy, so I want to see if I can figure out the transformation on camera. This is just a little thing I'm doing right now because I think it'd be fun. So, we're going to start here with the arms. Yes, okay, so arms divide out. That's step one. Okay, it looks like the wheels back here. Those are going to form his backpack if this is like the anime model. But let's instead focus right here, because these are definitely going to be legs. Yep, they split apart. Do they go out? They do. They do telescope out. There's a good click when you get to the final bit. And then I'm going to assume we fold down for feet. Or maybe, I guess feet could stay fully extended. There's nothing here that indicates that they can't. Okay. So now I'm seeing how this is going to come together. Okay, so chest like this. Does that click in? That doesn't feel like it clicks in. That's kind of friction locks in. Okay. And then back here. Okay, so you guys turn this way. So I'm going to have, kibble up here. There we go. And okay. Port here, and then a little nub in there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not exactly a wizard of transformation. It's much more Armada toys are pretty, what's what I'm looking for? They're intuitive. Dare I say they are simple. They are very easy to suss out if you are familiar with the engineering style. Okay. And then I guess that just leaves these handlebars to pull up the real head. Come on. Yeah, he's up there now. And, oh, let me clean him up a bit. Yeah, okay, we're gonna have to fold these feet in. These feet are definitely gonna have to get folded in. And, alright, did the legs, okay, the arms do not extend anymore. That's sideways. He's okay. Keep in mind everything I've said so far, right? Sideways is a character I really love. He is easily one of my top 10 favorite Decepticons. He is a character concept I want them to go back to desperately. I love Armada Sideswipe. Someone asked me the other day if I could pick one character to get a masterpiece toy, who would it be? It would be Armada Sideswipe, Armada Sideways, because of how much of a fan I am of this design. It's not really captured here, but there's still a lot to like, I think. The proportions in general are decent, except for the fact that there's not really a, pelvis. I mean, there is a pelvis kind of buried in here, but you don't really see that because of how big the chest chunk is. Again, in the cartoon, they thinned out this design a lot, made him look very sleek. Here, he's just a bit boxy. Alongside that, you have some pretty simple articulation. You have a swivel at the head, but it's easy to dislodge it. You have a universal here at the shoulder. You have nothing in the elbow except for a swivel. You can go up and down on the wrist. You have a universal in the hip, and nothing in the knee, and you can go back and forth at the ankle. So you can't get him in crazy poses, but you can at least get him into a few decent-looking ones. There we are. And again, the color scheme is helping this so much. The color scheme is so beautiful and so striking that it's helping clean up just how messy some of the proportions might be. It's not as good as the anime design. Then again, with Transformers, very rarely is the physical design better than the animation design. But I am kind of coming around to it. I'm seeing things to like here if I can divorce it from what I've thought this toy was supposed to be for about, 20 years. Also, I will say that I like his head. You have the great kind of reindeer antlers coming out, and this is a cool looking, just visage for a figure. I like his pursed lips, I like his eye visor. It's a solid enough look. That said, this is not how Sideways should look. No. For that, we're going to have to bring the rider back in. If you're a big fan of Transformers Armada, I'm sure you've noticed that's not how Sideways looks in the show. Sideways is a double Headmaster. Rider is going to split in two, and we're going to get two separate heads to put on this character. So why does Sideways have this head? Very simple. The Armada designers realized kids might lose these, so they gave Sideways a generic head that wouldn't interfere with anything, and that way you can always have a complete robot. Brilliant. That's a great idea. I wish more Headmaster toys had that, because maybe then we wouldn't have so many headless bodies running around. It is a very cool concept, and one that absolutely helps me get more enamored with this guy. But before we talk about the proper heads, let's split back to see what the Rider minifigures are like. So here's the Rider minifigures, right? And I keep saying minifigures because I did just split this in half because they're also just their own dudes. So not only do these guys form one big guy, they are also themselves small guys. And they are not great small guys, admittedly. Just look at this one. He's something. Oh. He's going on a night on the town, boys. And then over here, it's going to be very similar. Let me figure out. Yep, okay. That goes down and around. And then, yep. You can see they have very long legs and very stubby arms. I will say the gray one looks a little bit better, just because he's a little bit more proportionate. But I'm not going to knock this, because think about all the play features you have right now. You have Sideways, who is a Headmaster, but he has his own head, and these guys are their own robots, and also a bigger robot, and also alternate heads for Sideways. That is a lot to pack into one toy. And I do think that this is okay, even if just, I can't. It's like legs all the way up Griffin. This is weird. This is really weird. So bringing our boy Sideways back in, I'm going to bring out first this guy, the one who is very luggy. And what you're going to do is you're essentially just going to get a fingernail in here. It's going to be very tough the first few times you do it. But you got to just force this piece up to expose these eyes here. Fold back the arms. And then we're going to take the antlers and we're going to fold them. Let's see, for him, they should be up. That's right. Because we're going to give him like a demon face. There we go. And there we go. We're now going to take Sideways, just push that back in, and then we're going to just connect these guys like so, using the tiny head. Oop, here you gotta fold back those bars. Using the tiny head to connect into the big head, and boom. This is how Sideways would have first appeared in the anime when he was trying to be an Autobot, and it is weird. This head is unapologetically demonic looking. It helps that it's black with red highlights, and it has crazy looking horns. This probably should have been the evil head, but it wasn't, because of an animation error that made the gray head, that was meant to be a little bit more soft and angelic looking, the normal head. Which is to say, this is supposed to be when he was pretending to be a good guy. This was the head he had. I wish that more things would do this. Like, imagine if, like, James Bond, in order to, like, infiltrate a group, had to, like, cover himself in, like, the blood of children or something. Like, yeah, I'm going to blend in with the good guys by looking ultra demonic. That way they'll never suspect me. I'm too obvious. They'll never suspect me. Sideways is a criminal mastermind, don't you know? But, yeah, this head is fine. It's not the head I know Sideways for. It's not the head most people know Sideways for. We'll go ahead and take it off. No, the head that people know Sideways for is the gray head. And I do think that this is the better looking head anyway, so I am kind of glad it became the main one in the show. Which, by the way, that was an accident that became the bad head. It is a little bit hard to figure out what direction this is supposed to go. Okay, there we go. So I have the eyes out finally. There we are. Very stiff, these old pieces. And then we're going to, it's weird, so we're basically going to go like this, and then have the horns going downward. That's how they appeared in the show, more or less. Very old ball joints. We're being very careful so that I don't break the sockets. And then we're going to plug it in. Wow. Weirdly enough, that fixes basically every issue I had with the toy. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I wasn't seeing Sideways before, but weirdly enough, when he has this head on, yeah, this is Sideways. This is absolutely the character I like so much. He still has some weird proportions going on. I still would like for him to get a new figure that's maybe a little bit more full-featured, but this is really doing something for me. Just giving him the right head. I think this says a lot about, like, how much about a thing's identity we apparently put into the face. But this is making me like Sideways a whole lot more. I was kind of thinking that this episode was going to end with me just saying, it's a cool toy, but it's not great for the character. Get the right faceplate on, and suddenly, it's pretty good again. So Sideways is super cool and awesome with the gray head, and I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, well, let's just ditch this loser then. He's just dead space now. No, because one, he has to be the shirt for that guy when they're a combined robot. But two, we got Minicon ports to still use, and there's his. So, I'm just going to plug him into Sideways, like so. There we go. And then we can point it at a wall, and we're going to launch. Oh, wow, that was not going at all. Here, launch. I can't make that go. Wait a minute. What am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong here? Launch. There we go. Wow, that was stiff. Okay, I was really worried it broke, because I felt something in my hand. No. So, it's good. Be careful with that, because I can tell you right now, just messing with that does not feel like that system is meant to last. Overall, Sideways is a mixed bag. A great vehicle mode, and a decent robot mode if you're okay with it not looking like the cartoon. The articulation is very lacking, but the color scheme helps make it a standout figure. The transformation was fun, and I do like what they did with things like the wheels, giving him a very unique silhouette. The double headmasters are a great gimmick, especially when he has the third head to ensure that if you ever lose one of the headmasters, he can still function as a toy in his own right, is legitimately brilliant, and something that Hasbro should have used on more Titans Returns figures. Kids are going to lose their pieces, and even if you lose both of these partners, Sideways is still a full toy, which is awesome, and I want to praise that. At the same time, his minicon ports are aged, and those missiles probably aren't going to launch many more times before they just straight up shatter inside those arms. I don't know if I would recommend Sideways. I really want to. I really want to recommend this guy. But that's a lot more due to my blind love of the character, as opposed to him being a good toy. He is undoubtedly an interesting toy. One of the most unique toys in Transformers. Good though? Sometimes to be different is to forsake being good. But whatever. I'll just have him scheming with Predacon on my toy shelf. These two seem like they'd get along.